how tough was this preparation compared to last year? I mean, last year wasn't, how should I say it? It wasn't probably not the best or the easiest preparation for you.
I'm not going to say this year was easy because last year was, can I say a bitch? Last year was a bitch.
I think that's probably right.
Last year was a struggle. Last year was flipping a coin. Am I going to make it? Flipping a coin. Should I do it? This year it was like, okay, I had 8 blood transfusion from my 2 bleeding ulcer. I had a broken jaw from the last Olympia. I'm like, what else could go wrong? So you take away those factors and you clear your mind, and I'm not going to think about anything. I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm going to train. I think the hardest part for me this Olympia was I started just prep driving 2.5 hours every day to the gym and 2.5 hours back home.
Really?
But again, I had the mind frame of I'm going to treat it like it's a 9-to-5 job, and I have to leave my house in the morning to go to work, and work is over and I have to drive back home. And that sounds crazy.
No, I think that's pretty smart.
It kept me focused and grounded as if I'm going to work and that was it. You know, I didn't get caught up in, oh my God, I'm going to the Olympia. It was like, okay, I'm going to work. And every morning I did the same thing. I get up in the morning, I did cardio, you know, say bye to my family, get in my car. I drove 2.5 hours to Gold's Gym in LA from Santa Barbara, train, eat a meal, get in my car and turn around and drive back home. But I was so motivated for this year that it didn't bother me. It didn't seem as if I was driving 2.5 hours every day. It just seemed as if I was going to work. And I get back home and I did the stuff that I would normally do just being home and not worrying about being a bodybuilder. And it wasn't until maybe the last 4 or 5 weeks that we decided, okay, now you're doing cardio and you're doing, you know, you're posing and all that stuff. It's best if you stay in LA and train. And even then, I still treat it like I was to get up in the morning and going to work. You know, so yeah, this year prep, I was a little bit more at ease, a little bit more focused, and I had no stress.
And what's next, or what is in, how you will do it in 2019, or what will happen? Do you think Phil will take a year off and come back just in 2020, or you think he will be back in next year?
That's the $1 million question. You know,
oh, no. You know, I'm sorry. You know what I think? What is the $1 million question? Who was checking Sean's account? Will be Kai back in 2019?
And that's what I wanted to say. For me, the ideal situation would be, I know this might sound crazy because I can't even believe I'm saying it, but the ideal situation for me would to have Kai Green, Phil Heath, Dennis Wolf, Sean Roden. Because that was 2012, 2013, 2014. In my mind, that's what I would love to see on stage.
If this will happen, I could retire.
But you know, I'm a big fan of Dennis. I've known Dennis before he turned pro, and I think me and Dennis have had quite a few great battles that I enjoy being on stage with him. And I've never actually beaten Kai.
It's time.
You know, so it would be great to be on stage again with those guys because I think I had so much fun, and you know, to be able to be on stage with, in my mind, the best of this era. You know, I would love for that to happen. But until 2019, we're just going to have to wait and see. I know for sure I will be 25% better than I was this year.
25?
25%. I want to challenge myself to be 25% better next year and bring the best Sean Roden.
I'm pretty sure you should not miss the 2019 Mr. Olympia with that.
Kai will be back. Phil will be back. Going to have to talk Dennis to coming back.
That would be crazy.
That would be awesome. Maybe Jay could come
back. Jay, do you have a second when you finish the interview? Because we have 4 more Olympia titles in the room. So we should ask him about his opinion.
The one and only Mr. There's no one like Jay Cutler. And
should I tell you something? Jay is one of the reasons why I'm I fell in love with bodybuilding. He was my biggest motivation when I had the DVDs. You know, the times when you were still buying DVDs and people were training for 4 hours on the DVD, nothing else, no social media. Yeah. Here he is.
You know, I was motivated enough to say a lot of crap this year and piss a few people off because, you know, when you're dealing with Jay, you know, Jay seems to know how to put the right questions in your head without you knowing it. And when you're in his presence, sometimes you feel that, hey, you know what? I'm Jay Cutler, Mr. Ambassador. I'm Jay Cutler, Mr. Olympia. Mr. Rhoden, do you want to be Mr. Olympia? You know, so I'm thankful that I had the opportunity of knowing someone like Jay, and, you know, Jay making a comeback in 2019, I think is pretty awesome.
Ooh, when we add Jay to the lineup, that Sean had, next year Sean had Kai, Dennis, Phil, him, and now Jay. This would be pretty crazy.
I would buy a ticket to see that. Definitely. I would actually purchase a ticket just so I could watch that.
The sad part is you still win. So it's not so good for all us guys. No, I'm really happy for Sean. I was super excited that night, and obviously we had a long conversation many, many years ago. And I think under the tutelage of Chris Aceto was a huge stepping stone for him, and I think that was the reason for our discussion. He says, I'm ready to win this now. I'm working with Chris Aceto. They just started working together at the time, and I knew right away, okay, this guy's going to be something special. But when he won a couple weeks ago, was it 2 weeks now? I knew he won. I knew he was going to win, so I had full confidence. And I was sitting around people that were questioning, you think he's got it? I said, yeah, he's got it. And everyone knows I had my relationship with Phil for many years. Phil Heath was kind of under me. He was my guy, and you know, he worked his way up and, of course, overcame me to win the Mr. Olympia. I was injured that year, and I still felt I would have won 5. But he did. I think that was his best year. Phil Heath was his best in 2011. We haven't seen the greatest Phil Heath since then. But what Sean represented 2 weeks ago was something that got people excited about bodybuilding again, because, listen, he's not a mass monster. Although he has tremendous amount of size, he has balance and he has symmetry, and he doesn't have anything that you sit there and say, wow, he's got this outrageous body part. I mean, a lot of the detail is, but, you know, Sean has a balance that we haven't seen on a Mr. Olympia in a lot of years. And people may look at that as like, okay, can he retain the title being challenged by the mass monsters? And people say, is bodybuilding changing? Is it becoming more of an aesthetic thing? But he's kind of a crossbreed, because he is not just a symmetry guy. He's not just an aesthetic guy. He has the mass. I mean, his legs are world class. I don't know if there's anyone on that stage that can compete with his legs, although it's not an overpowering body part for him. I mean, he has the shoulder width. And we talked about that in an interview we did prior, 3 weeks to the Mr. Olympia, and I think he mentioned that. And I think it's the most viewed video on my YouTube channel right now, because he predicted why he was going to win the show, and it made him look very confident. And people may have took that as a little arrogance, and we know Sean's personality; he's not arrogant at all. Probably the most humblest champion we have, if you know, recently, and if not ever. And Phil, was it the best Phil Heath ever? I just mentioned 2011 was the best Phil Heath. I didn't beat Ronnie Coleman as the best Ronnie Coleman either, but it's not about that. It's about who stands on that stage, 2018, Mr. Olympia, and have the confidence. And I told Sean, I said, the most important thing you can go up there is just to, like I said in 2012, act like Mr. Olympia. You have the confidence. You stand there. You finish the poses. You go through the poses. You transition. You look solid. And the thing where Sean really exposed Phil Heath is the transitions, because he was able to stay tight in the transitions and keep the stomach tight and the abs tight. And people may say, oh, Sean Rhoden with the ab shot won. But you know what? Sean has probably the best midsection up there. So, of course, he's going to show off his strengths, okay? Just because the guy, I mean, it's like Phil, oh, he has the best back double biceps. So if I'm Phil, I'm going to put up that shot as much as possible, right? And so, because no one really can compete with it in people's eyes. And I said, you know what, I'm tired of hearing about this being a back show. We said it in the interview. I don't want to hear about Phil Heath's back, because it's one pose, okay? back lat spreads one pose? What about all the transitional things? People forget about that because you can sit there and display all the Mr. Olympia's poses, where they're 7, 8 poses, right? But you forget about the quarter turns and the transitions mean so much. So people that sit at home and watch the videos and say, well, I think this guy should have won. Listen, until you're there watching the show, you cannot judge a bodybuilding contest because the transitions and those quarter turns and the presentation means so much more than just hitting front double bicep or front lat spread. And listen, it's judgmental who wins, okay? But when a guy's in greater condition and he has the symmetry, the balance, and enough mass, not as mass as Phil Heath in a lot of shots. Let's be realistic. He's got, great shoulders and arms, but Phil, that's not going to win shows all the time. It's about the whole balance. And that's what Sean brought, and that's what his strengths are. And you know what? He's going to be challenged. He's going to be questioned all year. But you know what? The Sandow's sitting, in Santa Barbara. And, congratulations on being the first. It was a jinx of the Gold's Gym Venice. No guy ever training out of that gym could win the Mr. Olympia, okay? And Sean proved that wrong.